So you guys know that I don't, generally speaking, do MCU figures by any means. It's just not for me. They don't really do a whole lot for me. I'm almost strictly a comic figure guy when it comes to Marvel Legends, and yet we are taking a look today at a MCU figure. So we came across a Walgreens that had stocked some Far From Home figures. Well, they had stocked at least one because that's all they had when I was there. And I found the Spider-Man figure, and I almost left him behind because I don't do MCU. But this guy just kind of does it for me. The idea behind this one looks pretty good. He kind of just looks like a standard Spider-Man, and it looks pretty good, so I'm curious to check him out. And that's really all this is. It's a curiosity for me, so I figured let's take him home, and at the very least, he might be just a regular Spider-Man to throw on the shelf. So here we go. So we got him here in our standard packaging. You got him there in the window. We've got the Far From Home logo down there on the bottom. Got some artwork on the side, and you've got more artwork and a bit of a bio on the back, as well as our roster and that Molten Man Build-A-Figure. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. And here he is out of the package, our Far From Home Spider-Man. And of course I've got to go into this review saying that I don't have any other movie Spider-Men to compare against. So you're going to have to go to another channel for that. But you're going to get a very ignorant look into a movie Spider-Man. So I have never handled one of the other ones. I have never so much as looked at one of them outside of the package. This was a spur-of-the-moment purchase, so here we are. And there's some cool stuff about this Spider-Man. I'm really of the opinion that he will fit in with non-movie Spider-Man because he doesn't necessarily scream movie Spider-Man to me. But there is also some not so good with this figure as well. He's kind of running middle of the road for me when it comes to various things here. So let's get started. We'll see what he can do. Of course, talk about articulation. So it's Spider-Man, so he should have at least some agility. So the head can only go that far up. It hits the neck right away, which is definitely not a good thing. It goes down pretty good, though, so that's certainly good. And then you can rotate, of course, all the way around. You've got shoulders that can go all the way out. They can rotate. You've got butterfly joints, so he can go all the way back. And he can go pretty far across his chest. That's not too bad. Biceps swivel. You've got your double jointed elbows. And then we've got rotation and hinge at those wrists. We've got an ab crunch, so down that much, back that much, waist twist. Legs go pretty far out, not full splits, but good enough, I'd say. Full kick forward, a little bit back, thigh cut, double jointed knees, and then we've got rocker and hinge at those ankles. So they go pretty much all the way back and then one big click forward. So he moves pretty well. The only real hindrance that I would see for my own personal tastes is the head. That's a little limiting right there. I'd rather he be able to look up a little further so you can put him into maybe a little more dynamic web slinging or just swinging poses in general. Otherwise, though, he does move about as dynamically as I would expect a Spider-Man figure to move. Now, when it comes to the look and the feel of this figure, there's some interesting things going on. For the most part, he looks pretty good. And like I said, he doesn't scream movie to me. He, of course, is the Far From Home suit. So you've got that carbon fiber black look in terms of the non-red parts, which I think works pretty well. And it just kind of looks like a Spider-Man figure to me. But in some respects, this looks like a non-Marvel Legends Marvel figure to me. This kind of looks like one of those dumbed down, what are they, like $10 figures? In some ways, he does not look like a Marvel Legends figure. He looks a little too cheap in some ways, and I think that comes down to a lack of paint on a lot of this figure. He is very well devoid of a lot of paint. Most of what you see is molded plastic, like the legs, and then you've got your molded chest here, molded arms. And what he is lacking, I think that would really help, he doesn't have any painted web lines. And he does have web lines. He's supposed to have them. They're in all the stills I've seen. They're on the box art. So he is missing painted web lines. They are sculpted, which I suppose I would take sculpted rather than painted in some respects because I do like the sculpted look. But the ideal scenario would be sculpted with paint in the lines. I think that would bring an entirely new depth to this figure. And that's really where they're kind of losing me because I want him to have those lines. You can see that they're there. They pick up the light. They very much do break up the body, but I wish he had those. That's really my big negative takeaway with this figure. I do like the look, though. I like the black, the carbon fiber, and you can actually see there is kind of a weave pattern in some of this, running down his back, his butt, and then, of course, you've got the white spider logo. And one cool little touch that I like, and I'm not really sure you know, what this is from or why, because again, I've only seen the trailers, obviously. But there is a white inline to the spider emblem on his chest. As you move him, you can see white appear on the chest, which I think is kind of cool. It's kind of so-so when you're looking dead on, but as you move him, it kind of becomes a little more evident that there is white there on the inside of the spider legs, which I think is kind of a nice touch. It certainly is different. One of the other things that kind of bothers me, though, is the paint. So the red plastic is not the same color as the red paint. So you've got a much brighter, vibrant red in here on the underside of the wrist, and then this stripe, and then the crotch. It's not the same at all. That's the easiest one to pick out because it's close. You've got this more dulled red to a very like candy red almost. So that's kind of a negative. It's not exactly unexpected. We see that a lot when it comes to Legends, but it's something that definitely just, you know, jumps out at me. The rest of the figure, though, I mean, the body is good. The proportions are nice. I like it. It very much seems like a smaller, more young Spider-Man. And then you've got the head sculpt, which is pretty good. Again, I'd like to see some paint lines in there, but I like the thickness of the lenses around the eyes, and then the actual white is very stark comparison to the black. So the head shape is nice. The sculpted lines are really good. I mean, when I say I don't like the lines and I wish they had paint in them, it's not because the sculpt on the lines is bad. It's just because I want the best of both worlds, and we only got one. I love sculpted web lines, but I also would really like to see paint. Now, I could fill them, and I very well might, but frankly, I don't really want to go to all that trouble. Otherwise, though, he does look pretty good, if not with a few faults. And then he does come with a couple accessories. He doesn't, as usual, come with the one accessory that I would always want. I always want some webbing with these guys, and we just never get it. Except for that House of M Spider-Man, which is just a dud. But we've got some extra hands. So we've got an extra gripping hand, and we've got an extra thwipping hand. And that's one thing to note. His hands are not fists. Both of the non-thwipping hands are gripping hands. So I guess they made you these hands on the chance that you're going to supply him some webbing, maybe, to put some in his hands. Because otherwise, you know, what's the point? He doesn't really have much to grip. So you've got 4 total hands, 2 different sets. So at the bare minimum, they gave you what you were going to get for any other Spider-Man. I just really wanted to see some webbing, especially since this guy doesn't come with a bath piece. So overall, this is a kind of a hit or miss figure with me. It's almost like a figure that maybe I shouldn't have bought just out of sheer curiosity's sake. But I do think that makes for a pretty good Spider-Man. It just doesn't have everything that I personally want. I wanted some web lines. I think that in some ways this figure does look like one of those more cheap figures. And that's, I think, again, down to paint or a lack thereof in certain areas. He moves pretty well. I think the sculpt is nice. And again, it's one of those things where I don't think he'll necessarily scream movie Spider-Man when he's paired up against other figures. So I can throw him into a weird Spider-Man shelf with all of my other very odd Spider-Man figures. And I think he'll work pretty well. And if at the end of the day he does scream movie Spider-Man, well, then I have one amongst a sea of others, so he can just be another Spider-Verse type of character. So if you're hardcore Spider-Man, you know, you're probably going to grab this anyway. This guy doesn't come with a bath piece, so he's not 100% essential to build Molten Man, but he is kind of the mascot for the movie. So I guess some people are maybe at an impasse when it comes to what to buy here. He's pretty good, but he's not great. And yeah, that's about all there is to it. Good, not great. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Far From Home Spider-Man. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.